So the move-in orientation is what we're about to jump right into it, and that's another part I'm really excited about. This is another milestone for you kind of throughout this whole process, right? Whatever happens in the move-in orientation will multiply and replicate itself throughout the entire lease term. Okay, I'm going to say that for you one more time because again, this is one of the ways where here at Gideon Property Services, we just think a little bit different and we handle things a little bit different for that reason. So whatever happens at the move-in orientation portion of the process, that is what's going to multiply and replicate itself throughout the entire lease term. Okay, what do I mean by that? For the move-in orientation, that is the prime opportunity and the prime place to really set the expectations for your resident. Now it's no longer your future resident, it is your resident, okay? So this is the prime time and opportunity to really set those expectations. And a lot of times when you're moving and you have all these things going on, of course, you're not just thinking about moving and finding a place. You're maybe relocating jobs. Maybe you have to find a mover and all these things are going on. So there's a lot of things throughout the process, even throughout the lease signing, that could have been missed. Some of that fine print, some of those expectations that you really wanted them to grab and hang on to. So this move-in orientation portion is very important for everybody to slow down, to take a moment and to really go over those expectations. And what we found large success with this move-in orientation is when done properly, a lot of times you decrease a lot of the confusion really throughout the lease term. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into how we do this and how we handle it. So our move-in orientations are really in three parts. Okay, it's three parts. So we do a consultation with your resident, your current resident. After they sign the lease, we do a consultation, and what that is, that's that moment I was talking about, that little breather. Okay, where everybody, the chaos has kind of died down. They finally found a place they can relax, they can breathe a little bit, and now that's the time to sit down like I would sit down with you as the landlord in order to kind of set the terms of our management agreement. That's the same thing that we do for them. So we sit down with them, and at this point, the consultation is not necessarily what are their goals, but really outlining to them what are our goals. What is the goal for this lease? Okay, and how do we make it successful? So that's going over, what happens if there's a maintenance issue at the property? What happens if they do have issues paying rent? Who do they contact? How do they pay rent? What are the different methods for doing that? What happens if they want to make alterations to the property, or they want to add something, or they want to change the paint color, or whatever the case may be? What happens in those situations? What happens when they get a violation? All of those things happen at this point of consultation. And the reason why that's very important is it gives us a time before anything bad has happened, right? Before any difficult conversations have to occur, to really go over those important things, to go over those points where we may butt heads before we even get there. And that way they know it's not a personal thing, it's not an attack against them as a resident, but it really is just setting up the expectations so they're set up for success. One of the things that we have found is that there's really no bad tenant. Right? There's no bad resident. There's no one who moves into a property with the intent to be a horrible resident. It's just, I haven't found it yet. But what happens is you do have people who move into the property and they're just living their lives, and they don't know what it takes in order to be successful within your property. Okay, so without nagging them all the time, this is our time to remind them of what that means. Okay, so first thing is the consultation. The second thing is the property walkthrough. Okay, so we actually walk through your property. We do kind of like the move-in inspection 1 to 3 days prior to their move-in. And that way, if anything has happened or needs to be tweaked or anything like that, we can get someone in and make sure that's taken care of. And it's not too soon before they actually move in. So we're definitely not going to do it 15 days before they move in. Okay, we want an accurate reflection because that's also used, that move-in inspection, that move-in property condition report is actually used as well in comparison when we're looking at the security deposit. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later on as well. Okay, so we'll do that, but your resident has the option to join us for that, or we can do it on our own. Either way, they do have access to all of the photo documentation and everything that we prepare during that time frame. They will have access to it as well as you as the landlord. Okay, but they do have an option to be there with us, and a lot of times that makes them feel more comfortable, and it solidifies the fact that we're in this kind of together. We do build that relationship with your resident. One of the things that we found, and we think is a great statistic, and we kind of rely on that, is people who feel like that they're your friend, right? So your customer, if they feel like they're in good relationship with you, they are 90% less likely to sue you. Okay, so this part is very important for us as well, not necessarily so we don't get sued, but at the same time to bring down the walls, to bring down the friction that is normally found surrounding property management, to let them know that we're in this together and we're always from day one working with them. Okay, and that's something that really, really helps if we do run into issues, to have more of those conversations. And the last thing is the resident follow-up. So 7 days after your resident has moved into the property, we check in with them and we just see, hey, how's everything going? Do you know how to change the AC filter? Those are things that we're looking at. See if they have any questions about anything. Those are the times that we're just following up and checking in with them and letting them know everything that's going on. So we think that that part is super cool. Again, this move-in orientation is kind of our sacred part of the process, because it gives us an opportunity to truly lay the foundation of how this lease term is going to go. And what we found over the past year, we haven't had any incidences with any of our residents we weren't able to quickly work through. And because we've set this foundation, a lot of times we just go back to the move-in orientation. Oh, do you remember when we discussed this? And generally it's fine. Even when it comes to the fact of them being at fault. So those conversations are a lot easier to do when the foundation is laid properly. All right, so again, that's another great milestone for us here in this process, and we'll come back again and we'll talk about the electronic portal.